Hello class. Today we're going to start Unit 2, which is Chapter 3. We're going to do Sections 1 and 2 together because they both cover parallel lines. The objectives for today are to identify the relationship between two lines or two planes, name angle pairs formed by parallel lines and transversals, use theorems to determine the relationship between specific pairs of angles, and lastly, use algebra to find angle measurements. Today's notes are going to be quite a bit of definitions, so let's get right into them. Parallel lines are coplanar lines that do not intersect. Remember that coplanar means that they are on the same plane. Do not intersect. So if we look at the picture next to us, we could say that M is parallel, that new symbol for us is parallel to N. All right, then let's talk about skew lines, and skew lines are demonstrated in picture to the right. Skew lines are lines that do not intersect and are not coplanar. So they don't intersect and they are not on the same plane. So if we look at the picture to our right, we'd say lines M and N are skew. Okay, then we also see in this picture parallel planes. Parallel planes are just like parallel lines, except for they are planes that do not intersect. So do not intersect. Remember that we're going to have lots of definitions, so if you need to pause, please do so you can finish writing or rewind. So if we look at this picture, we see that plane R and P are parallel. All right, moving on. Next, our next few definitions are all going to relate to the same picture on the right side. So first thing we're going to talk about is a transversal. A transversal is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at two different points. So if we look at our picture to the right, T is transversal to S and V because it cuts through two coplanar lines. So that creates a bunch of angles for us, and interior angles are angles that lie between two lines. So if we look here, we have our two parallel lines. So we have interior angles, 4, 3, 5, and 6, because they lie on the inside of those two parallel lines. And just like we have interior, we have exterior. Exterior angles are angles that lie outside of the line. So 1, 2, 8, and 7 are on the outside of those parallel lines. So we have some more definitions that are going to go a little bit more in depth with interior and exterior. Our first one is consecutive interior angles. Remember that consecutive is one right after the other. Interior will be inside. So consecutive interior angles are interior angles that lie on the same side of the transversal. So again, our two parallel lines. And if we look on our consecutive interior, we see we have 3 and 6 that are next to each other, and 4 and 5 that are next to each other, and they are on the inside of those parallel lines. So I'm going to erase that so we can look at our next few angles and their relationships, keeping our parallel lines. Next we have is alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are non-adjacent interior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So non-adjacent, remember, adjacent is right next to each other, similar to consecutive. And so non-adjacent are going to be on opposite sides of our transversal, such as 3 and 5, and 4 and 6. And those are also on the inside of our parallel lines, so those interior angles. So now we have to talk about the same thing except for their exterior. Alternate exterior angles are non-adjacent exterior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So here we'll see 1 and 7 and also 2 and 8. They are on opposite sides and the exterior of our parallel lines. Last, we have corresponding angles. Corresponding angles lie on the same side of the transversal and the same side of two lines. So seeing that, we have 1 and 5 Because if I was to take up line V and set it right on top of line S, 1 and 5 would be in the same spot. We have 2 and 6. And we have 4 and 8. And lastly, we have 3 and 7. There we go, 3 and 7. So again, if I take line V and lay it on top of S, all those angles will lie on top of each other. All right, here these three are all review from our last chapter, chapter 1. So I'm going to have you guys fill those out and answer those for me tomorrow. So in the following sketches, the two lines cut by the transversal are parallel. To indicate that lines are parallel, extra arrows are put on them. So if we look here, those two arrows are representing those lines are parallel. And if we look here, these double arrows are representing those lines are parallel. And they're double because they are a different set of parallel lines. So using only your knowledge about vertical angles and linear pairs, fill in the measures for the other 6 angles in the sketch. So let's talk about vertical angles first. Vertical angles occur when we have two lines that intersect. And we would say vertical angles are such as 1 and 3 and 4 and 2 because they are directly across from each other. Those vertical angles are congruent, so I can say that this angle is 118 degrees and this one is 62 degrees. Now let's talk about linear pairs. Linear pairs are two angles that form a straight line. And remember, a straight line is 180 degrees. So now I can take my knowledge about these two angles that are going to form a linear pair here, take my 180 and minus 118, and I get 62 degrees. So I can say that this angle is 62 degrees. Bringing back in our idea about vertical angles, I know that this one is congruent, so it's also 62 degrees. So let's take a look here. We have a linear pair, so 180 minus the 62, and we get 118. So this one's 118 degrees. And again, we're going to play into the fact of that congruent angle from that vertical angle, so that's 118. There's that second drawing. I want you guys to finish that drawing for tomorrow using our knowledge about vertical and linear pairs. All right, complete the sentences below with a word that relates the measures, so that's the angle measurements of the special pairs of angles. One more sketch is drawn at the right for you to fill in measures. When we get to the filling in those words, we're going to use congruent or supplement. So I can see right away I have vertical pairs, so I can fill in those degree measures. I know I have linear pairs, so I'm going to do that. And I find that my other angle is 55 degrees for this linear pair. See that it's congruent because of vertical angles. And this angle set is the same. All right, so now let's take a look. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles. So we have 125 and 125 as a set of alternate, and 55 and 55. Those are our alternate interior angles, and I see that those are congruent. All right, now let's take a look. As two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate exterior angles are, so if I look at my alternate exterior angles, I see those here and here. And what I notice about those also, they are also congruent because they are equal. All right, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are going to be my 55 here and my 55 here. Remember, if I take the line and put it on top, then those ones are going to be also congruent. And lastly, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then consecutive interior angles are, so if we look here at this pair, that's consecutive interior angles, and I notice that those are supplements. Okay, keep these in mind for when we're working on our next page. All right, apply your knowledge of special pairs of angles to solve for x in each of the problems below. State what angle relationship you used for x. Choices would be alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, corresponding angles, or consecutive interior angles. So for example, if I look here at 5, these two here are going to be consecutive interior angles because they're on the inside and they're right next to each other. If I remember back from my 4 statements above, consecutive interior angles are supplements. So 180 minus my 51 is going to find me my x, and x ends up being 129 degrees because of consecutive interior angles is what we stated. Okay, I want you to try 6 on your own. If we look at 7, I see that my angles are on the inside of my parallel line, so I'm thinking interior, and I see that they're on opposite sides. So these are going to be alternate interior angles. And if we look back up to the top, number 1 talks about alternate interior angles are congruent. So I'm going to take my 2x plus 1 and set it equal to 105 degrees. If I solve this, I see that I'm going to find x to be equal to 52. Again, if you're not sure how that happened, please take a moment to go back through and check and see what alternate interior angles look like. All right, there are 3 more for you to do. These ones are going to be a little bit more challenging, but I have faith in you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with these other problems done. Thanks.